You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Center, this is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is We're going live! Time goes in, time goes out. Never miscommunication.
It's over 9,000! My name is Foxy.
The balls are in there. Do a barrel roll. Don't chase me, bro. It's a trap. I'm a firing money. Time to Hey, Charlie, wake up! Oh, God, oh, man.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Nerd to Know Basis Show, airing on Phoenix 92.5 FM and all those other wonderful places on the internet. I am Cian, and because it's only one person, I'll just say it. With me is Kev this week. Kev, how are you feeling for this spooky edition of the show?
Kev is feeling extra spooky. We're getting into the Monster Mash. It's the time for slime.
Ooh. See when I'm not rambling on here, I do teaching after school and stuff, so I'm just fully sugared up. I've spent the week dressed up like Dr. Eggman, running from place to place. I'm totally in the Halloween spirit.
I've been trying to be. You don't get much Halloween spirit in the hearing aid business. Although I could get morbid and say we have more than our fair share of ghosts. But hey, somebody get the cane.
Hardy har har har.
Hardy har har. But no, I've been trying. I've watched a couple of spooky movies lately. Some of the classics. We watched Coraline there recently enough. That's still forever great.
Yes, and still forever scarier than most horror movies.
It is now, and I don't think I actually got to mention it there recently enough, but I watched The Evil Dead Rise. Finally got around to catching that one. It went up on Netflix.
Okay.
Lately. And you know what? It's a blast. Evil Dead, 5 for 5. Not a bad movie out of the bunch.
Really? I heard kind of lukewarm things on when they kind of rebooted it a few years ago.
Oh, I loved the reboot. It's it's much more because by Army of Darkness, it was a comedy franchise.
Yeah,
and I think I never actually got around to watching a lot of Ash vs. the Evil Dead.
Our mutual friend Dave, but not that Dave loaned me it, and it's really good.
Yeah, no, I keep meaning to. I think it's on Netflix. It's one of those ones in the back pocket, but I think that keeps that comedy tone, whereas the reboot and subsequent films grounded back to earth in terms of serious tone a bit more,
right? But
truly just crank the dial on the blood. Just showers. I think that first one had a chainsaw scene where it was just a hose of blood. And this one is very similar. It doesn't really have any sort of consistent timeline. It's at this point I feel like The Evil Dead is just a franchise where you have Necronomicon, Deadite, go.
Well, that is kind of the thing. I'm trying to think of I know they're kind of I suppose Cloverfield maybe, where the story really doesn't matter. It's just a framework to let a director come in and do their thing. Maybe I suppose in a broad sense, when someone new comes in to do Batman, that kind of thing,
Yeah, that's you have enough recognizable elements, and then just go with the setting. So this one is much more residential. It takes place between a family of a single mother and her kids and her sister in an apartment building, and they find the Necronomicon and everything happens. And you know what? I was a fan. It is exactly as brutal and gory as I expected it to be, and that was just a fun Wednesday afternoon for me. I will say, it seems, particularly the new ones, there's always one piece of gore that really skeeves me. And, on at 5, I won't get too graphic, but the first one was a sequence with a box cutter. And this one they get really creative with a cheese grater. Yeah, bad times. Really interesting, but bad times.
I don't need that in my life.
You can't grate mozzarella in peace anymore, can you?
Oh, stop it. Oh my god.
So that's about how my spooky month's been going.
I think we covered it last time. Look, I don't have a stomach for The Boys. I cannot definitely manage like that kind of thing. Like,
no, this comes with the big old banner of only if you like buckets of blood.
Yes. Well, funny enough, I was going to get into it after because we're going to talk the writer's strike and kind of how that wrapped up in a few minutes. But like, we might as well do it now. It's been a bit of a weird Halloween season because that's on Netflix, but that's not new. I think that was last Halloween, wasn't it?
That was last year. Earlier this year, actually.
And like, I haven't seen it personally, so I won't pretend to review it. But like, a lot of the students I teach weren't mad about The Exorcism, the new one.
I've heard it. Oh, my sister's a big classic horror nut, and she was disappointed.
Yeah. Like it was from the people who did the Halloween remakes, and it just seems to have missed the point. Like, again, I haven't seen it. Could be brilliant. I'm just giving the feedback from people I've talked to, and there's generally like a sort of what was that kind of feeling? Like, especially because these films tend to like pretend to reboot lots of other old films, and if you're gonna do that, you better have your stuff together, like.
Yeah, no, like that's it. Like, I think I definitely got the feeling from The Exorcist that they were really trying to recapture, because it's a lot of the original cast. They get the girl who played Reagan back, and I think they get the mom back. And they're like, it's very much trying to be a revival.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, the general consensus seems to be meh. I
mean, really, like, where do you go from there? Like, it's like, I know it's not horror, but it's like Terminator, where like every time they tried to reboot it, they throw in a trick.
That's it.
Like, it's like Terminator Genesis was like, oh, we've got Arnold back. This is the real new proper Terminator, and that didn't work. Yeah, we've got Sarah Connor back. This is the real new proper. Like, eventually, you're gonna run out of things to bring it back with, like,
Yeah, like it makes me ask the question of who was asking for a new Exorcist movie 50 years later. But no, it's not been a completely barren Halloween season, because I believe there's a new Conjuring spin-off movie. They've been fairly hot. Haven't watched any of them. They're on the back burner for me. I keep meaning to.
I've seen the first Conjuring. It's good.
But I think the biggest buzz one right now coming out is the Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
Yeah, and just for the sake of history, we should also throw out a mention to Saw Patrol. The most weird, bizarre cultural artifact. Like,
I don't think it's bizarre. I think it's just trying to copy Barbenheimer.
I know, but
with much
with
less.
Barbenheimer, like, people reasonably would have gone to both. Who's going to come out of Saw, possibly covered in blood if you saw it in 3D, and go, I want to see what Sky and the gang are up to? Or even worse, vice versa.
I think I need a real come down. What's going on? What's going on with Jigsaw?
That was a bit too sugary. Let's see Saw 10, which is actually Saw 6.5, but however, it's horror. Who cares?
Who cares? Yeah.
You don't want to mix those two up. You don't want to send Mayor Humdinger into Saw or something like that.
Damn, man, I know you have 2 kids, but you're pulling some real Paw Patrol deep cuts on me.
I definitely. I've got them all learned off. I just wish I knew Saw characters so I could like put a song together.
There's not many, I'll tell you that much.
Whenever
I've only seen like 3.
Torture, Ragged Adventure Bay.
Yeah, no, Saw isn't, even though there's 10 of them, it's not known for its deep lore. It's just one guy.
No, but there was a time where maybe it's gone too far now, but the plot of the Saw films, like people were invested in it. Friends of mine were invested in it. Like, wondering who it would turn out to be and all this kind of stuff. It did have that kind of, I suppose Marvel's kind of beaten them to the chase now, but it did have that kind of serial narrative thing to them. It wasn't just like another Saw,
Yeah.
There was a while where people really cared about them, like.
I think so, but like it definitely started kind of falling off fairly early on.
Yeah.
And like, listen, when you have something like the Fast and Furious taking linear storytelling in movies to such incredible heights, most anything else is just going to fall flat.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have to come to terms with the fact that Marvel will go, Star Wars will go, Paw Patrol will go, and somehow the Fast and the Furious will still be here. And no one asked for it, but it's great, and it's somehow still going.
I asked for it, Cian. Come on.
Did you ask for it before you watched it?
No, because I didn't know. I wasn't. I wasn't enlightened yet.
But now I have. But that's what I mean. No one asked for it. It just turned up, and then people liked it once it was here. That never happens anymore. We live in an age where we're being told to care about Morbius.
You don't need to tell the people who care about Morbius. The people already do. That's just part of culture, man.
But yes, I derailed you. Yes, we might as well. Now, I should say, this isn't a review. You've turned up for the wrong episode for that. But
it is not out yet.
we should speculate a bit on Five Nights at Freddy's, because I'm a massive Five Nights at Freddy's fan, and being someone who teaches like teenagers, like I am now fairly well versed in the lore. Five Nights at Freddy's audience, very peculiar. It's people who watch YouTube, teenagers, and 5-year-olds who somehow watch Squid Game through Roblox and no one knew better. So that's the audience. But what's your experience with Five Nights at Freddy's, Kev?
I've never actually played any of the games.
Okay.
Because the frantic jump scary kind of gameplay just never appealed to me. Plus I don't even think my PC could run that.
What, Five Nights at Freddy's? It's fairly like rudimentary.
Oh, no, I know that. I'm talking I'm scaling how bad my PC is.
I see. Right.
But I have I won't pretend I'm above it. I've spent evenings watching Markiplier and MatPat. YouTube is my streaming service of choice, so I've definitely just watched videos on it. But even then, kind of as detached as I am from that fandom and that the franchise,
yeah,
I'm actually oddly interested in the movie for a couple of different reasons.
Because it's worth, because you never know. There might be someone listening who isn't probably is aware of this Five Nights at Freddy's thing, but doesn't know where it came from. Five Nights at Freddy's, for the last person on Earth who doesn't know what it is it was just a really kind of simple game. I was supposed it started on Steam maybe, and it got popped, and it's just dead simple. It's sort of red light, green light when you actually boil down the mechanics of it.
Yeah,
go on.
It's keeping an eye on cameras and watching for moves, but the real hook to it is that it's a haunted Chuck E. Cheese.
Yes.
So the mascot animatronics in a children's restaurant. Except you're the night guard and the animatronics come to life at night and you have to stop them from eating you. But
even that you could imagine in your head some sort of 3D rendering of it. It is just POV, you're in a room, you can look at the door on the left, look at the door on the right, open up your camera, you can see the monsters moving about the place, and you have to make it to 6 a.m. And if you run out of power, the doors open for some reason, and they get you. So you can't stare at the cameras too much, but if you don't look at them enough, they're going to move faster, and then they'll get you. And it's, as someone who plays it kind of with, and I should say, just for the historical element, it's it got big not necessarily through the gameplay, but through, like you said, the Markipliers, Jacksepticeye's, MatPats, was it? Sorry,
the very reactionary
Yeah.
YouTube gamers,
the people who get a fright and fall off their chair and through a window. Those guys.
you were watching it to watch them scream their lungs.
Yeah. Like, let me say, I am an incredibly reactive person, and when I play Five Nights at Freddy's and I die, I go, oh.
Yeah, that's good. Like, inherently, like, that's like, those guys are good performers.
I'm not knocking it.
I'm
like, it's just like, it's like if you watch it and think you're gonna like fall behind a couch or something. No, it will make you jump, but that's about it. Like, but anyway, so I absolutely love this franchise. I'm not into the lore, but I have been educated on it by people who know better. And you've basically it stays pretty similar through all the games. Like in number two is like a war game where instead of 4 of these like metal dealies, you've got 10 of them, and you're like baking eggs while watching the camera, and like, things are running at you and you've got to close doors, but if you don't turn the torch on, then the other one will like fall off the roof. It's kind of like,
to be fair,
a parenting simulator if you've got 10
we
kids.
Could go on because like, since it's has it been 10 years maybe since that first one came out?
I would say so, yeah.
Like that, this franchise has not stopped. Like, to go over all of them would be the whole episode, because there's so many games. There's more books than games.
Well, you've skipped ahead there, yes, because you and me haven't worked in a bookshop. I don't know if it's the same for you, but when Scott Cawthon started releasing books about this Five Nights at Freddy's series, because as they go on, they start adding cryptic clues into the game. It's not a story-led game. If you care about this, you have to work at it. Like, it is just a ducking behind things type game. But when books started coming out, I was being asked for these things for 5 weeks in advance of release. The people who are really into this really care about it.
Yeah, like it's catering to the Gravity Falls fans, of the people who just need to dissect every mystery that a franchise has, even if it's not heavily plot driven. But if there is a nugget, if there is something to lift a flap on, they will swarm to it.
Yeah,
that's how MatPats made his whole empire on. Like, that is the concrete blocks to his castle.
Oh, absolutely. And like not to get too kind of autobiographical or whatever, but like, I do these online socials for kids, for teenagers, kind of drama games, that kind of stuff, And recently enough, I had sort of a teenage one where 4 or 5 teenagers turned up, and they all like Five Nights at Freddy's. And I just asked them, like, what's the backstory? And they had got whiteboards out. There were debates. They were talking and using the Zoom chat message bar at the same time. Multiple backstories, multiple serial killers, like multiple locations, like they like clues from books, from web comics, from video, and like all this. So like, it's just amazing how something so simple has like really captured people's imaginations,
And yeah, and so like that kind of brings us to where we are now, in that we like, it's almost, I think this has been something that's been in the pipeline for a couple of years now. This isn't new.
Yeah.
But it took a while, and now we finally have a Hollywood production movie.
I'll be honest, I never thought this was coming out.
Oh, this felt very production hell, yeah.
I assumed that if it ever came out, the whole franchise would have burnt itself out, and it would be a super basic, like, hero's journey type thing. Like, now, you know what? We haven't seen it. It still could be. But just based on the trailers, it does seem to have the atmosphere right. And again, trailers are trailers. But, like, it's much more promising than I expected. I expected it to be, like, a cash grab, like that Slender Man film that came out a few years ago,
That's it. That's what I'm saying. Not as somebody who hasn't been engaging with this is interesting to me for a couple of reasons. For one, they've really made a point that the animatronics they're using are practical effects.
Good
they
start.
are dudes in suits, and that will sell me on a lot.
Yes,
it is very easy to sell me on something when it is dudes in suits instead of CG. On top of that, a face I haven't seen in a while, and I'm happy to see again in Matthew Lillard.
Shaggy himself
in the flesh.
Now, Scooby-Doo in a Five Nights at Freddy's restaurant. That's like a match made in heaven.
That's it. And I mean, I can't name off the top of my head a movie of theirs, but I think Blumhouse have a pretty all right reputation.
Oh, Blumhouse are very consistent. Yeah.
So like I think
they basically took over. Do you remember that dark universe that was going to take like the world on fire? When that all burned out, they handed it to Blumhouse and they did The Invisible Man, and that was genuinely good. Like, not to say they're spotless. Like, Truth or Dare was rubbish, but like I think Smile is one of theirs. Like, generally they have a good low budget, high concept and good film, ratio. Which is pretty rare in cinema these days.
Yeah, no. So I think it has enough going in its favor. And Josh Hutcherson is I think one of the victims in it as well.
In Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, I think I saw him in the trailer.
God, blast from the paths everywhere.
That's it. Like it seems to be kind of catering to a nostalgic audience. So I'm intrigued. It's the one that's definitely kind of giving me something to kind of like, I'm interested. I would be more interested had I not already watched a Five Nights at Freddy's movie recently, though.
I was going to say, I've got two. Which one are you talking about?
Willy's Wonderland.
The Nicolas Cage one.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's a Nicolas Cage one and there's a good one.
What are you talking? I actually quite liked the Nicolas. It's dumb. It is dumb and schlocky.
My memory of it is him punching robots.
Yeah, and slamming energy
looking
drinks.
like robots.
Yeah, that's the whole movie.
Well, hot
young people get it on, and Nicolas Cage.
Why don't you take us on a journey?
There's not much of a journey to take on. Nicolas Cage gets locked in a restaurant with a bunch of hot, like, mid-20s people, some of which get it on, and he punches robots for 90 minutes. And that's the movie. I think there's something of like a bunch of serial murderers' ghosts inhabit the robots. Something stupid like that. But Nicolas Cage just punches these robots to death. And that's the movie. It's on Prime. It's 90 minutes. You could just watch it in the time it would take for me to describe it.
You need to demand more of your movies.
I think I was just in the mood. I think I wasn't in the mood for anything particularly deep when I watched it. I think I needed something so surface level brain.
Right.
It fried the right neurons for me the night I watched it.
I apologize. I'm trying to find. There was like another knockoff Five Nights at Freddy's film, and it wasn't the Nicolas Cage film.
Yeah, but on top of that, like there is something I like. Even though I haven't engaged with Five Nights at Freddy's, something about the Chuck E. Cheese kind of concept absolutely fascinates me, and I kind of I find myself drawn to anything about it. Historical stuff on Chuck E. Cheese itself, or like things parodying it. We never got around to talking to it last time. The new It's Always Sunny season.
The other one that has like, sorry to interrupt you there. The other knockoff Five Nights at Freddy's that does have like, kind of like you said, people in suits, animatronics, and proper horror, don't hug me, I'm scared vibe. It's called the Banana Splits movie. And bizarre and authentic, and to make it more authentic, it is based on like a sort of an anthropomorphic cartoon from the 60s, like in the real world.
Okay.
And they just made it into a Five Nights at Freddy's horror thing. So it does have that weird air of authenticity to it when things start going wrong, Okay,
you got me. That's something.
I'll see if I can find it on a streaming service. But I apologize, I interrupted you. Please go on.
No, I was going to say that the new season It's Always Sunny parodied Chuck E. Cheese's. I think it was Radical Rats, I think was the one. And it goes exactly as you'd imagine an Always Sunny episode to go about it.
Very well.
very, very horrendously. But yeah, no, it is a concept that fascinates me, and fascinates me that it is a franchise that Chuck E. Cheese as a franchise and company still exists.
Does it?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's still kicking. I don't know how it's physically, how like the I haven't heard recently how like their physical locations are doing now these days. I know they like did a bunch of ghost kitchen stuff around the depth of the pandemic.
Oh, I
where
see.
like
Well, I mean,
they would
you'd be mad not to, wouldn't you?
Well, no, it was that they were advertising a new pizzeria in town, but when it arrived, it was a Chuck E. Cheese pizza in a Chuck E. Cheese
Right.
box, which apparently is
all
not
right.
good pizza.
I mean, look, I've played enough Five Nights at Freddy's to know that if a Five Nights at Freddy's experience opens near me, I am not going to it.
Not even in the daytime. Not even to see those
Especially not
animals.
during the daytime. Are you joking me?
Oh boy. We'll organize your next birthday for it. Don't worry.
Oh joy. But happier things. Why don't you tell us about the writer's strike?
As hey, you know, we're here. We're known for our timely news updates. I think
we have been trying, in fairness. It's not our fault that things change literally every time we record this. What was it now? Not to segue too much away, but like, what happened last time we recorded? A bunch of stuff dropped literally when we stopped recording. Like, Prodigy got uncancelled, Daredevil got cancelled, and now they're making it again. I'm gonna have to go digging through our like kind of discussions and stuff. A load of stuff happened literally as soon as we stopped recording last time.
Oh, it's constant. Wednesday nights seem to be the night news drops because that's when we record.
Yes.
But
like,
no,
it's not paranoid if they're genuinely out to get you.
Exactly. But no, there's just to kind of to have it on air. The writer's strike finished about a month ago. They managed to strike a deal. I don't have the details in front of me, but by all accounts, according to like WGA strike leaders, it's a very generous deal for the writers.
Okay.
Now, that is not to say there is still no strikes, because the SAG-AFTRA strike, the Actors Guild strike, is still ongoing. There's been updates and things about that. I think the week after the Writers Guild strike wrapped and that contract got filed, the SAG and the studios went into talk, and the studio froze them out because they demanded 2% of the streamer's revenue.
Right, and that's a lot, I'm assuming, is it?
Not very much. 2%. They thought 2% was unreasonable and enough to say, no, we're walking away from the table.
Okay, because really, streaming services don't release numbers and analytics and finances and stuff, do they?
No, but actually that's one thing in the writer's strike, is that the writers now can get that information from streamers, which is unprecedented. Like, they're the first kind of organization to be able to get those digits.
Yeah.
But that situation with the SAG strike was a couple of weeks ago. I think as of yesterday, SAG and the studios are back at the negotiation table. So maybe like it could be very well that by the time this episode launches, they'll have reached a deal. Still ongoing.
I would say within an hour, maybe.
Typically, the moment we hit record.
If news flooded on a Wednesday night, you'll know it was us.
Absolutely. As always. Oh God, I had a moment of like almost blind panic because I've gotten used to like not seeing a lot of movie announcements because obviously movies haven't been being made.
Yeah.
The past like half a year. Except for indie stuff, but indie stuff.
Yeah.
An announcement came out revealing the date of the next Paddington movie.
Oh, okay.
For like it's like November next year. It's not soon. But I saw that and my gut instinct was like, oh God, is Paddington a scab?
What?
He's not. No.
Okay.
No. I it took me like 2 seconds to remember that Paddington is a predominantly British production.
Right.
Which, like, the British unions are fully separate from
Oh,
the
I see what you mean.
unions.
Because they did an actor did have to leave for the strike, didn't they? Like
That's it, yeah. Lily Gladstone, was it?
Right. Okay.
She's a member of SAG as opposed to the British unions. So they did have to recast her and then continue.
Okay.
But like, that's Paddington. It's I don't know.
So you had
who the
images of
production is.
Paddington crossing the picket line with the Kardashians.
Exactly. Yeah. There was a moment of fear that I was like, I don't make Paddington 3 be unethical.
Yeah.
I need Paddington in Peru to be good. That's a salve for my soul. It's got big boots, but I think it can do it.
Dear Aunt Lucy, I passed all these people holding signs and shouting. I don't quite understand what's going on.
But the man in the big suit offered me a lot of money to continue making my movie.
And I do like money. Money seems to be good, so I took it.
It could buy me more money.
And now there are angry people storming my trailer.
I'm getting lots of letters, and not the nice ones. A lot of ones calling me a scab, and a lot of things I don't think I could write to you in letters.
I have had scabs. I feel like they are mistaken.
We can't keep doing this.
So, like, all right, real talk though. Real talk. Is the entire like principal cast back for this newer one?
I believe so. I think that I think this was just kind of a preliminary announcement just to drum up hype in a dry season, because again, it is over a year away.
Right. No, because like, I mean, like obviously like Ben Whishaw is like great as Paddington. Like, you know, it's bizarre to think he was second choice. Like, you know who was originally doing the voice?
Who?
Colin Firth.
Oh.
And he very graciously was casting it, did it, and said basically partway through, this isn't working. Can you get someone else, please? Which, like, look, I know their Hollywood spin is a machine and a well-oiled one at that, but it's the latest in a long line of things that makes me think Colin Firth seems to be like a legitimately decent person. So enter Ben Whishaw, you know, and now it's hard to believe that anyone else could have been him, you know?
Oh yeah, no, like that's sometimes you just have the right person just land it. Like what I always kind of think about, they had like Moana, I think was one where they had, I couldn't name any of the actors involved.
Yeah, but
they had like, you know, a line of like, you know, big name voice actors come in for the lead of the new Disney movie. All of them did. Apparently the girl, I could not tell you her name off the top of my head.
Right.
But the girl who ended up doing it, this 17-year-old girl, last person in line, and she floored them. That's who voiced Moana in the end. So
right.
Like it turns around, and sometimes the right person for the job just becomes abundantly clear.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, but the reason I bring that up is just because, like, even though Paddington's at the center of it, like, if you don't have the Brown family, like, you know, kind of like your man from Downton Abbey, and is it Sally Fields, the one from Guillermo del Toro? Of every film I've ever known has fallen out of my head.
That was she was Shape of Water.
Shape of Water.
Yeah.
And those kids and Mrs. Bird, like, you know, like
I
if you don't have them, it'll just be Paddington faffing around in a foreign place, like a BBC special when they run out of ideas. You need those characters there to make it Paddington, you know?
Yeah, no, I think so. And again, like it seems like the premise is Paddington is going back to his roots in Peru. So we're getting a kind of an adventure movie. And I'd say the idea of the uppity middle class British people in Peru.
Yeah.
I can see the tracks they're laying. So I think we can have faith.
Yeah, and you know, if they do it really well, it'd be really nice, because we've had 2 movies of Paddington being a fish out of water in like London. Like I read the books to my kids. That is the entire premise of Paddington. Is actually weirdly enough, Mr. Gruber is usually a bigger character than any of the Brown family because it's him taking Paddington to like a London landmark and then adventure happens, you know.
Okay.
So, but if you put the Brown family in somewhere that Paddington is familiar with and have them kind of faff around and be English and awkward themselves to death, yeah, I could totally see that working as a new twist on it, you know.
I think so. I am intrigued. It's as I said, it's way too far out for me to like actually start getting excited for. But like it's one of the movies I can think of where I'm like, oh yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to.
Yes.
Although in much closer terms, actually another piece of news that came out there recently enough, we finally have a release date for the new Hayao Miyazaki movie in this country.
Oh, this is the Ghibli.
Yeah. It is being released in Irish and British cinemas on Stephen's Day.
Yeah, and the cast is really good. Like, obviously, like you're probably going to watch it in Japanese. I'm probably going to watch it in English. But the English cast is really good. On this one.
I pretty much only watched the Ghibli stuff in English. It's what I've known. That's like, you know, I watched all those movies. I watched like all those movies in English back then, and it feels kind of wrong to go back. I think the only one I've watched in Japanese was The Wind Rises.
Ooh, interesting pick. Okay.
I think everything else I watched Natsuka in Japanese.
Right. Okay, but like I
English.
noticed that Mark Hamill is in the cast of the new one, and Mark Hamill is kind of a dark horse of the Ghibli like English dubs because he was in the very first dub of Nausicaa.
Was he Nausicaa? I know he was Castle in the Sky.
He was Castle in the Sky, and he wasn't the main character in Nausicaa. He was just a couple of the background ones, but he was there, and he's floated around being like he seems to be one of these weird like Alan Tudyk like figures who doesn't mind taking a few roles if they're not the principal, you know?
Oh yeah, well
kind
I mean
like
he's
doing jobbing type stuff, like, you know.
Well, I mean he's also a very prolific voice actor.
Yeah.
Kind of around the scenes. The one that really interested me was that they got Christian Bale back.
That's right, from Howl.
Yeah. No, I to be abundantly clear, I have not looked up any summaries of what this movie is actually about.
Yeah.
I've tried to avoid any sort of clips or trailers. I'm trying to go in relatively sight unseen on this because, you know, it's a Miyazaki.
It's called The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah. But so I don't have any reference for who any characters are. But because I read an excerpt on Twitter there, and apparently it was that they got Howl's voice actor back in the Japanese dub from the Japanese dub to play this character. And so when they were casting it around, when the English casters were like, well, why don't we just try and get English Howl back?
Yeah.
And apparently, Christian Bale absolutely just agreed to it.
Fair dues.
So I'm not looking at character names. I'm just going off of the cast. So there's no context for any of this. But we've also got
this in front of me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got Dave Bautista, which I think is really fun. Yeah. Willem Dafoe, I think, was going to be.
Willem Dafoe was another returning one. He was Tales from Earthsea.
Okay. And then I think newcomers to the Ghibli line are Robert Pattinson and Florence Pugh.
Yeah. And let's not forget Karen Fukuhara, who is the one in The Boys, who is the deaf character, you know.
Oh, okay.
So we probably won't recognize her voice, but it's nice that it's there.
No, I think like provided they all do a good job, which I'm sure they will.
Yeah, and did you say Gemma Chan from The Eternals and all
that? No, I did not. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah. No, she's class. She's one of those actors who has been incredibly competent for like 15 years and kicking around. She was in a David Tennant episode of Doctor Who back in like 2009. Really? That's how long she's been at this. She was in like Hannibal and like, you know, she was in Captain Marvel covered in blue and no one knew she was. Like, she's just, I love it when like an odd jobber actor breaks in and becomes like a name. It doesn't happen very often, but I love it when it happens, you know?
Yeah, no, I think like it's no, provided I'll probably try and get out to see it on Stephen's Day. I think that's Stephen's Day. There's not much else going on. I think a group of us will probably get out. So it's pretty much it's provided whatever showing is showing that I can get to.
Absolutely. Depending on where you go, you might see Dara there with a hot dog. Who knows?
Maybe. I think I'll probably end up going to the Lighthouse, and the Lighthouse are pretty good at like clearly marking what's a Japanese dub, what's English dub. If you go to Cineworld, truly it's a spin of the wheel.
You might not even get a movie. Who knows?
Oh, Demon Slayer. Oh, don't think I've forgotten.
Oh, right. I hate to break form, but would you like to talk about game re-releases or Tenet?
Let's talk games. I can save my Tenet is a movie from 3 years ago. I could talk about that anytime.
Yes. Well, we were kind of idly talking about things that are being re-released. You flagged with Metal Gear. And I know that the middle trilogy of Ace Attorney is being released in January on the Switch.
Yes,
as well as like Tomb Raider and stuff. So like, what kind of are the big releases you're looking forward to? Like,
well, the Metal Gear 1 came out earlier this week, and I am so excited for it, partially because I'm just kind of a simp for this franchise, but genuinely, actually, I think it's very good because these are games that have been largely limiting in accessibility up until now.
What console franchise they attached to?
Typically PlayStation and varying generations of PlayStation. The first one was 1, 2 and 3 were PlayStation 2, 4 was PS3, 5 was a PS4. Like and they were kind of always exclusives to those.
Yeah, so between that and between console accessibility, it's not like the way you could play through the Final Fantasies 1 up to 12 on the Switch now. At least not until recently.
So, outside of sparse re-releases, there was a collection released on the PS3, but now that's kind of a console that's not super accessible at the moment. Which, to your point, you could play up 1 through 12 on Final Fantasies 1 through 12 on anything. 13 is somehow, even though it's a very recent game, is the least accessible because the PS3 is kind of relegating to retro now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been sparse kind of re-releases. There was a collection on the PS3 that was great. It slightly up-res the graphics for Metal Gears 2 and 3. And it was a way to play at the time, but that's kind of, as I said, been relegated kind of to a retro release. It's not super available now. And outside of a single port of Metal Gear Solid 1 to good old games, they have next to no PC presence.
Right. Wasn't Revengeance on the PC? Did I dream
Revengeance was. Revengeance is a weird one though. That's a platinum joint.
Right, okay.
Revengeance is a great game, by the way. That's not me marking it. That is a stellar game. But it's not it's a spin-off. It's not the main franchise. It's an action game. It's not a stealth game. Again, I'm trying not to say dismissive of it. It is a fantastic game. And if you ever get a chance to play Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. But Metal Gear Solid,
name alone. Come on.
Oh God. I don't know if you ever remember any of the ads for this game.
No, Revengeance, I've never played a Metal Gear game in my life, despite the fact one of my best friends basically talks about it all the time. But Revengeance is one that's glued into my head from YouTube playthroughs.
Yeah,
how did swords move that quickly?
It was the whole the initial premise of it was that you could cut anything. They could not do that on the PS3, so they scaled that back. But when they were properly launching it, the title card would have Metal Gear Solid, and then from either side of the screen would slide over the word revenge and vengeance until they literally merged to make the word revengeance. It's gorgeous. Anyway, I digress.
Yes.
Metal Gear Solid. So what they've released now is the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. And I think it's actually a very cool package. So it is, first off, the first 3 Metal Gear Solid games, which were released over 20 years ago, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games. So it is all 3 of them. 2 and 3 are the HD remasters. So not fully remade, but just textures are upscaled.
Okay.
So that they don't look absolutely like a PlayStation 2 game on like HD monitors. 1 isn't, but one is a blocky Resident Evil style PS1 game.
Yes.
But it's cleaned up. It doesn't look like a smear. I think it still looks pretty good. I do think that they could have done a little bit more. If anything, they could have added a scan line filter. That's my one thing I wish they did. Because it could have just been an overlay feature they put in. It wouldn't have taken long to do, but that's a gripe.
But see, that's an interesting point in and of itself, because like sometimes with these remasters, you don't know what you're getting. Sometimes a game is remastered to the point that gameplay is actually worse. Yeah. Or sometimes you think you're getting a remaster, like when I got the Super Mario 3D collection, and the game is there in its original unpolished glory, which was especially galling because they released a Nintendo DS version with fixed up graphics and extra gameplay mechanics and just didn't do it for some reason.
Yeah. No, these are faithful. They are now still the old games. So don't there's no getting away with the fact that like these are PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games. I think they are still very good PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games. But that is what you are getting.
Yes.
On top of that now, so there's those 3 games. You also get the VR missions side disc, which was basically like mini games in a way, like kind of side missions from the first game. You also get the original MSX Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2, the games preceding the Metal Gear Solid franchise that were like 2D top-down stealth games, which have had limited re-releases kind of here and there over the years. They haven't been totally inaccessible. But on top of that, we also get the American Metal Gear sequel, Metal Gear 2 Snake's Revenge, which was
Revenge.
Snake's Revenge, which was a game that was made simply because the American division of Konami thought that Americans would be too stupid to play the Japanese sequel.
Oh my god.
Because this was the 80s and that's how the game industry worked.
I love how like you tell me all this and somehow Snake is still a Smash Bros character.
Cian, listen, I could spend the rest of this podcast telling you about Metal Gear. And it will melt your brain.
All right. Well, you just to kind of sum up though, you sound quite happy with the way this re-release is put together.
I think so. I've been playing the first one since I got it, ticking away at that, and I think that holds up. And I haven't had a chance to dip into 2 and 3 yet, but unless they change things drastically from the PS3 re-release, I think that they're pretty much going to be the same. I think more than anything, I am just happy that these are now much more widely available.
Yes, because like we're in an era of lost media, like you know.
Because this re-release now, it's on PS5, it's on the Xbox Series consoles, it's on the Switch, which great. Metal Gear on the Switch is a fantastic idea. I fully endorse that. Most importantly, it is on PC, and that's the stay.
If it's on PC, it's very hard to screw up from the internet. Like
that's it. So like it's on Steam. It's going to stay in libraries, and I'm also I can't wait to see what the modding community gets up to with it. I think there could be a lot of fun had dissecting these games and kind of rebuilding them. I think a lot of people are going to have a good time with that.
Okay. I mean, I'm similarly excited. I mentioned earlier for they're releasing Apollo Justice and the 2 Phoenix Wright games that were on the 3DS. And like we talk about kind of lost media, and Nintendo's a weird one where every one of their devices has so many mechanics that games can be lost in the sense that they're just hard to adapt. Like some of the Kingdom Hearts games are just the scenes with texts telling you how much fun you would have had if there was touchscreen compatibility in a wider sense with the Switch, you know? But unfortunately, it's a Switch. So unless you've got a Switch Lite, you can't bang a pen into your TV and get the same results. So I'm glad to see that that's making the jump now. And yeah, I mean, I still haven't gotten around to the first 6 Final Fantasies, but I'm glad to see that, like you say, all the games are being made more accessible, because I think we are kind of reaching a stage where games are I hate to sound kind of artsy, but like game media is kind of being culturally protected and treated as something worth respecting and not just like something frivolous, you know?
Oh no, we absolutely are. There's been a recent there's a games historical foundation in the US, a game preservation historical foundation in the US, that's been doing studies lately, and I think found I can't remember the exact digit, but I want to say it's about 80% of games. 80% of games that have ever existed are completely inaccessible or lost.
Oh my god!
Because like that's like early 70s and 80s games that haven't been like of the cherished few that have been ported to like Nintendo consoles.
Right.
Like most of them have just been delegated to landfills because the cartridges are melted.
The
like
ET face, yeah.
Yeah, like that's so like there has to like games media is such a young art form in such a new world. There is no standardization for preservation yet.
Yes.
And there is works. Again, the I can't remember the name of the organization, but it's it might be the Games History Museum, or something along those lines. But they are making genuine proposals to government facilities to try and start preserving old games because retro games, as I mentioned, the PlayStation 3, a HD console, is now like I think retro is defined as anything that is more than 15 years old. The PlayStation 3 is a retro console now.
Oh, stop! It's still my DVD player.
Exactly, though. Like that's it. You can't buy games on its storefront anymore.
I'm glad you told me that. I was about to start playing Mass Effect on there.
On its digital storefront. Yeah, no, I think you can roundabout it, but you can't like just go on, put in your card and buy a game.
Okay. All right, because like it's funny you say that, because I have right next to me my Nintendo 64 and it still works. The problem is TVs are now so advanced, its plugins won't work in the TV, you know? So like that's in a sense like not lost media by virtue of the machine itself, but just technology going ahead, like, you know? Yeah,
so like there's a lot of kind of like there is a lot of nuance to be had, but I think like one thing that really kind of like struck with me is that, you know, there isn't a way of accessing games in the same way that games seem to not follow the rules of other media.
Yes.
In that you can walk into a library, find any book, find a lot of movies. And like aside from a handful, I know you're quite a fan of getting video games from your library.
If they're there, yeah, of course.
If they're there. But like it's not treated as the same type of media.
No.
So like that's they're like this foundation is trying to find a way to generalize this. It like to emulation is probably the best way forward for a lot of this, but it's trying to figure out the boundaries to which it isn't, you know, because the other alternative right now is piracy.
Yeah,
because there's literally no other option.
Well, I mean, like, you know, it is therefore incumbent on not just us, but game developers to preserve this, because you can't complain if, like, you know, the only way is piracy when you've denied access. I mean, look at the amount of people who probably had to pirate Disney Plus because The Mandalorian and Disney Plus weren't available here in Europe, you know?
Yeah.
If you give people no choice, you can't turn up your noses at it, you know?
And yet they still do. And that's the thing.
Which console was it that blocked off game sharing, like physical media game sharing?
That was Xbox. They
Xbox. Oh,
they backtracked that, but that was after being significantly clowned on. That was the Xbox. Oh,
it wasn't
the Xbox One.
360 was a very like chilled out console. Must have been like the one after that.
It was the one after. It was the Xbox One. I have spent
frustratingly
a long time
named Xbox One.
I have spent a long time actually learning the chronology of Xbox consoles for this very conversation. No, it was the Xbox One. So like the first like major HD internet compatible console. And they tried to integrate this always online feature, and the console would have to be online all the time, and that's the only way you're going to play your games. And it has to be registered to this console, and you can't share it, and you can't give that disc. And if you do give that disc to another person that it puts in the console, that person has to pay some sort of a rental fee. Again, all of this got sidestepped because at that same conference where they announced that, PlayStation was the next day, and they had a segment of their conference that was like,
I was gonna say, that's one of my favorite YouTube videos.
How do you share games at PlayStation? And it's just one guy handing the box to the next guy.
But it's better than that, though, because they do like a full like PlayStation 3 orchestra swell. Like, you know, here you are. Thank you.
Man, you know, the death of E3, we lose a lot.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying it shouldn't be dead. It probably should.
I mean, it wasn't really doing anything anymore, but like, I mean, me and Dara talked about Cyberpunk before, like, you know, and you wouldn't have had that hype and then that anti-hype if you didn't have the likes of Keanu Reeves turning up on stage to tell someone they're breathtaking, you know?
Exactly. And like there is only so much weight that Jeff Keighley can carry on his shoulders alone. And Lord, he is trying. But yeah, no. TLDR, go play Metal Gear.
What does that mean? I've always wondered.
Too long didn't read.
Okay.
Go play Metal Gear.
Why Sarah Z puts that at the end of her videos after you're 2 hours in.
Yeah, it's standard, just kind of like at the end of like, well, in summation, you're not going to read the rest of it. Here you go. Go buy Metal Gear. If you don't have 60 quid, you can also buy the game separately. Buy Metal Gear Solid 3 for like 20 quid. It is a perfect video game. That's our show, by the way. We're out of time.
Sorry, Tenet fans.
We will have our day. There are dozens of us.
Yeah.
Dozens.
All 27 of you will just have to wait until next time, where Dara will talk about it for a full 52 minutes.
Not if I get him to derail about Cyberpunk for a short
Dara,
time.
edit that out if you don't want to do that. The power is yours.
But you will have to tune in next time for us to talk either Cyberpunk or Tenet.
We'll definitely remember that.
Definitely.
As we always do.
You can count on us to absolutely remember.
I mean, really, we need to ramp up the next time things. If we're just going to forget anyway, let's just go. Like, David Tennant to be on the next one. Who cares?
I'm sorry, Keane.
I'm sure he's not busy.
I'm sorry, Keane. Did you say David Tennant?
Oh, for God's sakes.
Please support us on Patreon at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
He's actually a plumber. Like, you know. Really interesting guy, though.
But yes, you can find us on all of our socials at nerdtoknowmedia.com. Over there as well, you can find our Patreons, which you can support us if you like what we do over here. Kean, is there anything you would like to plug while you're wrapping up?
No, not at all. Just have a wonderful Halloween. Assuming this went out before Halloween. If not, we hope you had a wonderful Halloween.
Halloween's on a Tuesday. This is going out before that. From ours to
famous
yours.
Last words.
It's
going out in March.
Have a spooktacular March. And we will see you again in the next episode. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.